Welcome back, Excel super users. We are in our Excel super user program, video number 7. You can watch this video in our YouTube channel, iSelf Academy Snippet and Excel Snippet YouTube channel. This program will be called as Excel User Series 6.0. Again, I heard there is a lot of people couldn't able to access the class file, so I've given a link in our datasets here. Again, this is working for me, but I would like to just check out whether this is working for you or not in my SharePoint folder. If this doesn't work for you, please do drop me your mail ID, so I will be adding the class files as an attachment in the mail. I'll do it once in a week, because I'm mailing you the links for the week every day, so probably by Sunday I will add that particular week's class files for your references, which will allow you to not just get the files that I'm using, but also for a practice files I'll be adding that here. Again, I'm going to use one kind of a file regularly, so whatever file I'm using it, I'll explain you that better. And you can also watch the previous videos in this particular file, and then you can just download these, or you can go to my YouTube channel. You already have the subscription means, then you will get the notification that this particular videos have been uploaded on the respective YouTube channels here. So without further ado, let's go for the next logics on ribbon function. So today we are about to talk about the ribbon functions on the sort and filters, and we will also talk about things like creating a table and how to add a slicer in a table. Plus we will also talk about the logic called name manager. Again, if time permits, I will touch the pivot table creation or the basic level. We have to go through the PowerPoint presentation of pivot table, understand what is a pivot table is all about, and so on and so forth. So if time permits, probably I'll touch the basic level on these 3 dimensions. So I wish to complete almost around 5 more topics to 7 topics today. Again, find and select, go to special. We will do it with our basic pivot table dimension, so I'll also try to touch this. So my agenda is to touch 8 topics today, so I don't want to waste a lot of time on talking about other dimensions. Let's begin our session right now. So for the sort and filter option, so I'm adding one more additional file in our faces, where we can see that these are the file I'm going to use quite often right now, because this is the file which will allow you to understand how we are using the data set and how we're going to use the data set betterly. The first logic that I'm going to talk about is I'm going to pick up employee raw data. Again, the data doesn't have way too much of a data in it. I have 1000 records of a set of employees here. Again, I got this from internet, so this is one of the file that you can access the internet if you cannot able to access my file here. And if you closely watch this particular file, and you can see that it gives you the employee ID, full name of an employee, and their title, department, business units, gender, ethnicity. Again, these are the logics that we won't generally add in a data set. I don't know why they're adding this. Age, hire date, annual salary, their bonus percentage, country where they work, city where they work, and if they are not anymore in the system, they already quit the job, then how many of them have quit the job already and when they quit it. So all these informations are available for us. Again, this sort of the data will allow you to do things like filter, sorts, and so on and so forth. Again, when I go for filter and sort, again, filter and sort comes in 2 different menus in Excel. The first menu will be on the home tab, where you will see sort and filter button that comes into play. There you can handle the entire data set. The next logic that we will have is we have a separate tab there. When we go to data tab, you will see a separate subgroup called sort and filter, and then you can see the sort and filters are coming nice and clearly. Again, when you go down to the data tab, you will see an advanced filter option. When we come back to the advanced part of filters, we will learn about that. Again, where you use the sort, or which menu that you use sort, it is literally up to you. So again, sort and filter will allow you to do things better. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut here. Again, how to use a keyboard shortcut here. Normally I preferably use a mouse over here, but again keyboard shortcut will allow us to do things a little faster. But remember, when you're adding a keyboard shortcut, you have to remember a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So I'll start with the keyboard shortcut here. I'm going to press an Alt button. That's going to give you the keyboard shortcuts for all the menus above. And then if I want to go for the data, I'll hit an A. And then if I want to go for a sort, I can either sort ascending or sort descending, or custom sort can be done. Sort ascending will give SA, sort descending will be SD, and sort customized sorts will be SS. So I'm going to use a sort ascending, so I'm going to just say SA. That's going to sort the data in an ascending order for me. Again, it's selected the data and then it's sorted the data. And again, if I want to see the descending order part of it, so I'll say Alt A SS. So that's going to give the descending order part. Then it says that how do you want to do it. You can see a pop-up window coming up here because it's asking you a question. So what is the sort order that you want to add here? Again, it populates the box here automatically and it's asking you a question. I said sort descending, so the order point can be converted into a descending here. When I move it, my latest number will come on top, or the last number that I used in the employee ID will come on top. The oldest employee will go to the bottom of it. You can create a custom sort also if you wanted to. So I'm going to give Alt A and then double S will give you the box lit here. Again, when I go for custom sort, again custom sort is gonna make your data a little different here, because we will be using the custom sort options in a much more different way, because we're going to add multiple levels here. So I'm not going to only sort. Now we can see that the latest or the last sort that we did to the data here, it says the employee ID is what we sorted it in the cell value in a descending order here. You can add one more dimension here. Again, if you're doing that, there won't be a bigger change as such, according to me, because that's gonna go based on anything and everything on the sort order given by the first list here. Again, sort order will not have a humongous part of change here. So let me just add another level, and then I will like to keep the job title in a ascending order here. When I do that, I won't see a bigger change here, but again, ascending orders on the job title is gonna work for you. And you can see that based on the numbers that we had earlier, the ascending orders will work for you. So now I'll go back to my keyboard shortcut again. Now we can see that I have two different sorting has happened. Again, there are certain employees who have different same employee ID here. Again, that's not going to be the case in real world scenario, because here I really don't know why they kept certain numbers similar here. So you can see that I can highlight that here for you. So these are the three numbers which I cannot have three different names with the same employee ID. Generally, employee ID will be a unique identifier or a unique number that you get, like your Aadhaar card, that you get a PAN card. The employee ID will also be unique here. It cannot be the one and the same here. Again, I really don't know why they're keeping it in this way. So let me just jump back to our sort ascending. So that's gonna showcase. You can see that again I have one more place where I have multiple people coming with the same employee ID. Again, this is gonna really create a mess when I want to filter the data out. I'll see both the data, both the people coming up here. So I have to work on this data accordingly. So now this is how the data can be sorted. Again, I'm using a keyboard shortcut to sort this data. Normally when I use it, I'll either click the data is here, and then I'll just click this button, and then I'll click this button. You can see that the sorting is happening here. The custom sort only pops up a window for you because we're going to add multi-level sortings will be happening here. So that's why it pops up a window for you. The other dimensions generally won't pop up a window for you. It's going to sort the data accordingly. Now we can see that when I click the button on the ascending order, it's not sorting in, it's only just doing its functionality. When I sort the other way around, it is only doing the functionality. It never pops up a window to me. The same way we can also add a filter here. So I just started with the base logic of sort and then custom sorts here. Again, when I go for a sort, I give a sort ascending, and then I've gone for a sort descending here. so you can pick any one of them. You can also add a filter. Again, I'm taking a data which really makes our life a little more easier, because our data starts from the very first line. If I'm in such a scenario, then I'm gifted here, because the system works beautifully for you. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut to activate my filters here. So let me just make it a little smaller so that I can fill in the keyboard shortcuts for the filters here. Again, when I want to go for a filter, again the filter will have 3 different keyboard shortcuts: 2003 and 2007 and above. Whatever you feel it is comfortable for you to use, you can use them. If you feel that it's the other way around, then you can just pick up the data set accordingly. I'm sorry, I'm a very bad speller, so I'm just spelling it out oddly. The first filter keyboard shortcut that I will use, it still works in your any version that you are working on it, so it's going to be Alt DFF. Again, this goes by the menu, not by the ribbon. If you're using the latest keyboard shortcut, then I'll use Control Shift L. That's one way I can add a filter, or I can use Alt 80. I don't know, I remember this, I took a session from one of my predecessors, or one of the trainer from the industry, when I was also a trainer, or I was a beginning trainer rather. He was a little more experienced than me, Mr. Amit Tharpe. He said that he's the one who gave me this Alt 80. He said the filtration can be done by his name, Amit Tharpe. So he said Alt 80, so that's how I know that there is another keyboard shortcut exists when I do that. So normally when I do a keyboard shortcut, I'll say Alt, and then I'll go for the data again. When I go for this data, you can see the filter here coming out, Alt 80. It's going to give you the filter point for you. Now you can see the filtration is added. Alt 80 again removes the filter here. I'm going to place the cursor in one of our data. So again, I want a filter to happen for the data above, or I will call this as metadata in an analytical world, or in simple language, if you want to talk about it, it's going to be the heading of the data. I'm going to give Alt 80. I can remove Alt DFF. You can see the keyboard shortcut comes inward. I'll say Control Shift L will add the filter, Control Shift L will remove the filter. Again, when I do that in our system, it is not really showing up the keyboard shortcuts, but when you see the video on the YouTube channel, you can see whatever the keyboard shortcut that I've hit right now will be added. Again, when I add a filter, only it adds the filter. It's not going to filter out the data for you. Again, you have to filter the data here. I would like to pick up a filter, maybe in a multiple column. I would like to see how many people who work in a specific country, maybe Brazil. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my filter option here. I'll say country, and then I can just uncheck all of them. I can add a Brazil here. Immediately the filtration will happen here. Again, I won't get the numbers in this list, and I would like to know, I'm a guy who basically from accounting background, so I would preferably check anything and everything on the accounting front. So I would like to filter one more column here called department, where those who are in accounting department, I would like to know them all. So I'm going to just click back the department here, so that's going to showcase all the list here. I'm going to uncheck this select all and add the filter here. So now I know the number of people who are working in accounting, and then their job titles, their name, and all other details are coming up here. We will be seeing more on these dimensions a little better. So let's see how we're going to use this even more better here. And if you want to remove the filter all at once, you can do that, or you can remove it manually. If you want to remove it manually, you will click the department here, and then I'll say clear the department format. So that's going to clear the department's filter first, and then I can also filter out and clear the filter the country point, and then I get the whole data back again. So this is how we will use filtrations. Again, the filter can be done in a much better option than what we are doing at the moment. Normally a non-Excel user can also use filter. Again, the most underrated ribbon function as of according to my analysis is the filter option. Again, I said there are a few options which people won't even recognize it, or again they use it time and again, and they use it without even taking a proper training here. So filter is one of them which will make your life a little better. You no longer need a filter here. You can hit a Control Shift That's going to remove your filter out of the equation. Again, when you go for a filter, again filtering sometime will be a little harder to use. Again, my data set is very simple here, so that really made my life a little more easier for me. So when I go back to my country, it doesn't have a lot of columns, and when I go back to my department, it doesn't have a lot of columns. When I go for job title, yes, I have to scroll it down here. I have a lot of job titles in my list, and then when I go for the units of business, again I don't have much, so I'm happy with that. But again, I can use this a little more better than what we are using at the moment. This is where I'm going to use the next logic called adding a table feature to my data. Again, table feature will allow you to do two things, which will be really very entertaining for us, and then it will make our life a little more easier. The next logic that I'm about to teach you right now is on table creation in Excel. Again, table creation is going to enhance our data a little better. So once we create a table, then I'll be using a partial part of this called slices here, and then if I can able to enhance a table feature with a name manager in Excel, then I am going to do something which we cannot even imagine how phenomenal it will be. Let's see where we are going to use a table feature and how the table feature will elevate our data better. Again, I will always use table feature and name manager in a tandemed way, so that if your data grows dynamically, that will allow you to add the data better. And then you can also write formula once. That particular formula will give you all your information automatically. So we are going to see how we're going to use this dimension better. Again, when I go back to my table feature, again I will jump back to my data sets on the right, because that will going to give you the list for us. Again, I talked about a filter earlier, and then I even talked about sort. Again, I mentioned the keyboard shortcut. Again, I read everything on the 2007 version. If we want to sort on ascending order, I gave Alt ASA, and then if I want to sort them in descending order, and then I'm going to just add the Alt D, and then if I want the custom sort, then I'll use Alt ASS. Let me just reiterate that and check whether I am doing it correctly. Yes, SA, SD and SS. So this is the sort point. Again, when I want to start working on the table front, the first point that I would like to add is how to create a table. I'm going to just use Control T to the table. Again, when I work with a table functionality, table function doesn't really need the data selections to done. You can just place the cursor wherever you want, irrespective of your data where it lies. In a filter, you have to use the keyboard shortcut only when your data is on the first column of your data sets. Again, in the table feature, it doesn't matter. Place the cursor wherever you want in your data set, and then hit a Control T, and it automatically pops up a window for you. It says, would you like to create a table here? The moment I say yes, that's going to convert the table feature for me automatically. And immediately after the table is created, you will see a floating tab. Probably we would have seen home, insert, draw, page layout, formula, data, review, view and power pivot. You will never see a table design by default in your Excel menus or ribbons. This will activate the moment you activate a table feature. The moment I activate a table feature, you will see it's coloring the range. First of all, it's adding a filter option automatically for us, and it is also naming your table as table 1. Normally I preferably use that table differently, so let me just keep this table name as not table 1. I'll call this as employee table. Whenever you are naming the table, please don't give a space between the two data. The moment I add a space and give an enter, that's going to shout at you and give you an error like this. You cannot add a table name with a space in it, and that's going to be the same scenario that we will use when we use a name manager too. So I'm going to give an OK. So that's going to build back to the default name here. Again, I'm going to go for the employee table. If you wish to have a space in between, add an underscore. That's what the menu error menu populated and showed what we can do if you want something like that to be added. The advantage of keeping this data is you can add a slicer to your data. Again, slicer is an option which populates, or it comes only when you have a version of 2010 and above. So slicer, I will term it as a fancy filter. Again, it's a filter which will make our life a little better. When we come back to the pivot table little later, so I will explain you how we're going to use these dimension better. Now I've added a filter earlier, and when I added a filter, I really felt that I have to go to the menu on the top, click the country, menu on the top, click the department and choose it. Now when I add a slicer, the slicer is going to make our life a little more better. Again, I'm going to place the cursor in, and I should have a data not in a range but in a table enabled or table featured enabled range here. And when I go back to my table design, you will see a lot more menus here. You can change the colors if you want. The table styles can be given either in a light mode or in a medium mode or in a dark mode. Again, don't try to remember these color names here, because each and every color name will have a different effect. So you can see that it is adding the colors for it. Again, if you know the menus available, then these things you can just scroll it over and then understand it better. When you're writing your Excel associate level examination, there are a few questions that populates on the table designs, and they will say how to enable a filter button, how to disable a filter button, how to convert a table into a range, or how to convert a range into a table, how to rename a table, how to color a table based on the styles available for us, which is light, medium and dark, so on and so forth. You can add it. I'm just adding one of that medium color here, which will give you the entire dimension, because I'm trying to just match the metadata color with the body of the data. Whenever we are working on table, you will see the tables are nicely designed, and you can see that one line is colored in one dimension, the other line, alternative lines will be colored. Sometimes the questions will be asked indirectly like that. If that is the case, you can use this as an option. Now you will see one more bottom. I'm interested in talking about one more dimension here, that is called insert slicer. The moment I do that, that's going to populate all my headings here or all my metadata here. You can add as many slices as you want here. There is no curtailment for you, but I am interested only in the two of them, because that's what I filtered a while ago using the filter option. This time around I'm going to filter the same using a slicer option. So how do I do that? Is I'm going to pick up the department part of it, I'll check that out, and then I'm going to click the country part of it and give an OK. Again, when I add a slicer, the slicer is going to come in a singular column of data. If you are happy with a single column data like this, if the data are not too much, then you can happily use it. So I'm going to use this to the right. I'm going to drag and drop it to the right, and then I don't want this anymore this taller, so I'll reduce it to the height at which the data can be visibly seen, and you can adjust the width also, because your slicer does not occupy a lot of space. And I can drag and drop the department on the right again, and then I'm going to reduce the height and the width of this. Okay, I'm sorry. When you are reducing the height, please make sure that there is no drop down, or you don't want to scroll this anymore. So keep the option in such a way that the scrolling is not a part of it. And if you want to make this into multiple column, you have the facility to do so. The moment you click the slicer, you will see one more floating menu comes on top called slicer, and then you will see one more dimension called buttons. In the buttons, in the column, I'm going to make this into multiple columns here. When I do that, probably you have to expand this, because you have to read the entire data. And now the height of my slicer is reduced drastically. Now you can see that there is a drop down menu comes into play. I don't love to have them, so I will make this a little bigger, so that will take care of the scroll down option out of the equation here. And now I'll reduce the size of this file, because I'm just making this better. I'll go back to the view, and then I'll say bring this to 100% so that I can see them all in one single screen. And then I'm going to just make sure that there is no drop downs that I'm going to add here. So I'm going to make this a little downwards here, or I'll readjust it accordingly. And then I'm going to color these two dimensions here. So the first one will be the color on this part. So to do this, I'll go back to my slicer floating option and choose the color. Always try to choose the darker color. Lighter color is not going to really make any sense for us. I'm going to use two different colors which will enable me to make the data look a little better. So now if I filter it out, I will exactly know what is the filter is on. So I'm going to filter the accounting like I always do, and then I'm going to filter Brazil. So now you know exactly, and you can see the data sets are reduced automatically, and then you know the filter what you have done. Again, I'm keeping the filter wherever it is, because the moment I clear the filter, this is gonna make my life a little more easier. Again, in the filter option, it was a little more harder to do it. I'm gonna just click this button again, and then click this button again. It's gonna go off. Again, I'm not using a keyboard shortcut to filter any of these dimensions in a slicer. I use a mouse option to make sure that the data set works for me beautifully. So now I can choose the respective list that I want, and I can choose whatever I want to use in this list. Again, the plus point of slicer will be even more better. I can pick up multiple country and multiple department. I would like to see what's happening in Brazil and United States. So I'll select the Brazil, I'll click the control button in the keyboard and click United States. So that selects both. And I would like to know accounting and finance, how many of them are there working. So I'm going to select accounting, control button on the keyboard again, and click the finance. That's going to select two dimension. You can add as many as you want. I'm just showing you how you can select more than one option in a data set. And if you like to bring back all your old data again, just click the filter out. That will bring the filter out of the equation here. So this is how we can add a filter to the data sets. And now I'm gonna make one more dimension list. Again, I'm going really very nicely. Again, the pace at which I'm going doesn't look too fast. Again, if you feel like a little faster, you can just play back this video and then slow down the videos and make sure that you are using that effectively here. So this is how we will add a table and a slicer. And if you don't want a filter option to coming up on top, you can just click one of the data here. That's going to showcase the table design above. If you don't want to filter anymore in a table, you can uncheck this button, which will automatically remove the filter for you, and you can add this back if you wanted to back again. In some situation, I don't want the coloring to happen alternatively. If that is the case, what I will do is I will uncheck the branded rows here. That's going to make the filter still intact, or the table feature still intact. The coloring option has been reduced, and now the style of the colors is also changed drastically for me. So now I'm no longer, when I place the cursor here, when I go back to this data, my slicer color, I'm not using it in the medium point. You can see that the medium point alternative colors have been changed into a normal colors here, and you can add the banner rows again. If I want the columns to be colored in that way, you can do that also. So that it's going to showcase the data set a little differently. Again, I don't know how you place the data, because here it is taking alternative columns here. I don't know whether the data comes in a right column portion here, or if you want to highlight certain columns properly, you can do something like this. Again, this is very rarely used. I don't generally banded the column here. I preferably use the banded rows here. So the color options can be activated and deactivated. You can also add a total column below. If I want to know the annual salary, again, wherever we have a number, that is where we will get a total. Wherever we get a text, you will get a different dimension of the data set. So I'm going to give a total row at the bottom. When I click it, it is not going to showcase the total for all the data. It's going to showcase the data only for the last line. Again, that's going to give a very odd answer for me. I'm going to click the total row here, and it says the number of rows that I have. It gives you a count here, because this field is a date field, so it's going to give you the count for you automatically for you. And you can see that. And when I go back to this data and click this data, you can see it is adding a subtotal function for me. Again, I didn't do anything very big. I just clicked the total row here. You can see the subtotal option coming up here. You can copy paste that to the multiple columns here. I'm willing to do that for my annual salary. I'm going to copy that and then move it to my annual salary, paste it here. So when you do that again, it is still giving you the same answer because it took the table name in that way. So that's okay. I don't need this. Let me just remove this again. So you can see there is a subtotal function automatically added to my data set. So again, it do a lot more than what we even imagined. So at the moment I'm removing the total row because I'm not keeping the appropriate data there. So I no longer need a list here. And if you closely watch, when I use a table feature, this is another feature that comes into play automatically. Normally when I scroll down the data, or when I go back to the data set above, you can see there is a first line right now. If it is a range, when I scroll down, this data will not showcase the data sets for me, and you can see that the headings is not coming up anymore. The moment I click the data in the table, you will see my ABCD has been converted into the headings of my data set. You can see until the metadata is available or the heading is available, it converted the ABCD into the headings, and the moment the data set ends, then you see the alphabets are repopulating in this column above. Again, the moment I place the cursor out of the table and I get back the ABCD one more time, again when I scroll down, I no longer need to use a logic called freeze pane. Probably we would have done this in our day one class to find out the last row and last column. Again, we'll use freeze pane for a lot of other things. We will go through those dimensions when I talk about freeze pane for us, how I can freeze the first column, how I can freeze the first row, how I can freeze a specific row. I can see them all very clearly here. So we'll see how we are going to use these dimensions one after the other one, and we can check how this is going to work for you beautifully. So we are going to see that each and every data set comes a little differently here. This is how we can add a table. Again, I want to remove the table feature here, so I don't want to remove whatever I've already done it. So I'm going to just duplicate this. I'll give a right click here. If you want the same data set to be duplicated again, but again you don't want to use the copy paste option, because copy paste option sometime will miss some data. I don't want to do that, so I want to take the entire sheet in consideration. Then I'll give a right click here and then I'll say move or copy. So you can either move this to another sheet or you can create a copy of it. So I'm going to come back to the move to the end of the line and I'll say create a copy here and give an OK there. So this is going to be one of our tab functions that we will do with it. Probably I would have done this in our first session. So again, I'm going to color this. This is my end file, so I'm going to give a tab and I'm going to make it red. And this is going to be my working file. I'm going to give a tab and then make it as blue here. And then I'm going to rename this as ranges. And then I'm going to call this as table, because this is a table feature that I've enabled to this data set. So that's why it's called as table. Now I don't want this table anymore. I want to convert this into a normal range again. So how do I know that that is removed? The moment I do this, let's see what happens. I'm going to place the cursor here. I'll go back to the table design. I'll click convert this to a range. Immediately pops up a window saying that do you want to convert the table into a normal range? I'll say yes. The moment I do that, that's going to change the entire list, and you can see that the moment I converted that, my slicer disappeared automatically, and on top you can see that my filters is also gone, but the coloring will be there. The colors won't go off when I take off the table feature out of the equation, but again my table feature will be a little different here. So when I go back to the data sets here, again here I have all my data sets placed nice and clearly, but when I come back to the ranges below, you can see that my slicers are disappeared automatically, and then plus my table is also gone. So this is how we will use table feature in Excel. So let me just retain the same data file name again. I'm going to call this as table feature. So let me keep the data in different dimensions. So all these working files will be there for us in our list, and then I will rename this as maybe the class 7 files a little later. So or else I'll just do it right now. I'll give an F12. I'll go back to my data sets here. I'll call this as class 7 workings. So then I'll have two files in the same name. So I'm keeping it at the moment as it is. I'll use that employee data table feature for the next dimension also. So this is how we will use table features. Again, we can use table features even more better. I just showed you how I can create a table creation in Excel, how I can use the slicers here. So now I would like to create a name manager. Again, I'm going to take a different data altogether this time around because I don't want the same data to be used. Let me just come back to the data set. I'll close this data and then I will open one more data set that is there for us. Again, let me just delete this. I don't need this anymore because I've already colored or I used that in the above data sets here. So I'm going to use the next logic called a sales raw data. So when I go for the sales raw data, the data will have a different dimension altogether. Now you can see that I am having a range. So this time around I'm going to convert this into a table, plus I'm going to add one more dimension to our data set that is called name manager. So why in the world we need to use both of them? Why can't we use any one of them? There will be a question that will always pop up for us. That's okay. That's happening because of one good reason, because if my data is going to grow, so let's see what are the data that I have here. I have a data from the 1st of September 2015. I have a data until 30th November of 2023. I have a record between 3,256 is the last invoice number, and it starts from 244 years. So I literally have somewhere around 6 to 8 years of data with me, and that's I'm okay with that. And I have informations like region, sales rep, customer, product, purchase, and sales. Now I want to convert this into a table. So again, converting into a table is an easy peasy job for you. Control T is the keyboard shortcut. If you don't want to use a Control T as the keyboard shortcut, go to Insert tab and click the table feature in Insert. That's going to give you the same logic again. And when I give an OK, that's going to color the entire range for you. Again, it's coloring a default color for me, and it's giving you the alternate colors and so on and so forth. I'm going to call this as sales table, and score. Again, I'm naming it in a particular naming convention. The naming convention is literally I will give it to you. So if you want to do something differently, you can do it. I'm going to call this as sales underscore table. You could have made it as S table, E table, F table, B table, whatever table that you want to add, you can add them all. And then I want to make the data set look a little better, so I'm going to change the metadata font color alone to white. So I'll come back to the home tab. I'll change this to white. And now my data are super duperly available. Now if I add the table total, now I'll get the total for my sales here, because my last column of my data is a sale. So I'm going to place the cursor in here, go back to my table design again, check the total row here. Automatically it adds the total row below. So when I go back to the last line, you will see total row. When I double click, because it's not showcasing all the data, the moment I do it, that gives you total, and you can see that the subtotal function changed here. Again, I had a different subtotal function when I used the table feature earlier. So let me just go back and see what is the subtotal function that we got when I created the last column total. So I had a total earlier. So let me see. This is the formula that I had. So now you can see the formula bar says 103, and if you closely watch, it says subtotal 103, and then it says range, and then it gives you the name of the file first, and then it gives you an exclamatory mark there that differentiates the sheet name. Then it gives you the range N2 to N1001. And when I go back to the current sheet that I have here, now I have a different formula sets here. Again, coloring option, I picked up a blue here. If you want to pick any other table styles here, I will leave it to you in that way. You can either use a lighter option, medium or darker option. So how do you want to see your data? I leave that thing to you. So what is the color combination that you wish to add here? You can add them all. Now the advantage of doing this is, now I have a subtotal function coming up here. That's the beauty of this data. So why subtotal is very important here. So let's see what happens when I do something on this front. So now I'm going to pick up a slicer to my data, and then I'm going to pick up maybe 2 or 3 different slices here. I would like to pick up things like a sales rep, a region, a customer, product. So this time around I'm taking a lot of slices here. So I'm going to place the cursor in the table, hit a slicer, I'll pick up a region, sales rep, customer, product, and then give an OK. That's going to showcase all of them here. There are few scrolling options going to come into play. There are few unscrolling option comes into play. That's okay. So I'm going to drag them all. I'm going to put them in a particular place so that I can access them all nice and clearly. So I'll place the region here. If you want to make them into multiple columns, I leave that to you. So I'm going to keep this in one column because I need to keep the height a little better. And then I'm going to color them accordingly. So I'm going to color this in a darker blue. Let me bring the sales rep here, and then I'm going to make it into multiple column, 2 column here. And then I will reduce this, and if you want this to be coming in the bottom, you can keep them and you can readjust it accordingly. And then I'm going to color them in a different dimension. Again, I'm going to keep the customer, again make it into 2 column. Okay, that is nice. So I'm going to make it a little wider because these are names a little bigger, so I'm going to make it more readable. So let me keep this exactly to the part. I'm going to add a green. Let me bring the product. Okay, again, yes, this looks nice. So I'm going to make it a little wider here. And then yes, I can bring this on top of data sets here. Yes. So again, I'm not seeing the height here. I'm just trying to make sure the data are more readable. I'm making it as big as possible so that I can get the complete name of the product here. So that I no longer want to search this data a little differently. So I'm going to add another color here. So again, my coloring senses, you know that it's bad in my previous class, so I'm just trying to color it as better possible. And if you want to be more lighter to your eyes, or if you want to keep things pleasant, you can do that. So now we can see the slices coming up here. Now I would like to filter out a multiple data. Again, the reason why I'm filtering it out right now is it's gonna really make our life beauty here. Let's see what happens here. I'm gonna hit multiple filters here. So again, if I want to do a normal filter, that's going to take a lot of time. In a slicer, it's going to become much more easier for me. So I'm going to pick up Chennai as a region, so all my data filters out in Chennai. And I would like to pick up Apple 15 Pro Max, what I've sold in Chennai. That's filters out. And I want to go for in Purvika's customer name, how many sales are did. If you closely watch, my earlier dimension of my subtotal total was different, and the current subtotal total is different. The moment I chose the first 3 points, it says only these are the sales representative who sold in this region this product and to this customer. Only these 2 people have sold it regularly. So I didn't choose the 4th option of sales rep here. The sales rep automatically adjusted according to the filtration that I performed in the other 3 slices here. That's the beauty of this slicer. This will not really happen when I do that, or it will not highlight for me when I do it in a filter. Again, the filter will also do this beautifully. Again, filtering them on a manual way of doing it, it's gonna become a real art part, because here I'm keeping it everything in a much more eye-lined data set. Again, when I'm gonna bring a drop down menu coming into play, so when I go back to my region, I'm gonna uncheck the select all, select Chennai, give an OK, and I'm gonna come back to my product, click this, unchecked all, and then select Apple Pro Plus. Okay, look at the level at which I'm spending time. Again, uncheck all. Again, now if I want to find out Purvika, I want to scroll down and then go to Purvika and give an OK. That's going to give you the answer. Again, it's going to give you the same answer one more time, but I used the filter earlier. Again, I'm going to use that in a slicer. Is going to be a easy peasy job for me. Just hit whatever you want. That's going to give you the answer automatically. And again, it highlights what you have done. Again, if you don't have a slicer, think about it, what you have done as a filter on this sheet, or identifying what kind of filter that you have added in here, knowing that it still will take a little time because you have to read it. It is not going to give you a visual cue of how or what is the filter that has been applied here. If you see that right now on the right now on the slicer front, you can see that the region, product and customers are coming beautifully, and then it says that who are the 2 sales rep who are involved in these sales. This is how it works, and then you can see that the filtration is going to give you the answer for the current data visibility. That is the advantage of subtotal. Again, I didn't use this formula manually. I used this formula using the table feature option, and then I checked the total row. That gave me the total automatically in the bottom, and then as I filter the data set, that's showing a different filter. Let me just pick up one more dimension here. I don't think that there is no sales is available for this particular guy, and then you can just filter out a sale for Durga alone and filter out the sale for Hema here. You can see there's total also. Then you can see the data sets are really updating and the answers are changing here. If you're looking for a dynamic answer in a data set, probably this is the way we achieve it nice and clearly. Again, I'm not creating any single cell result oriented formulas, or I'm not using anything on the specific summarization of data. I'm doing anything and everything in a raw data set. The moment I clear this, the entire sales tab will pop up again, and my total will change automatically here. At the bottom of my screen, you can see that the data set is going to change here. So again, I'm scrolling down here because it's not moving for me as I wanted it to be. So again, now we can see that the moment I clear this, that's going to change my answer furthermore. And then the moment I clear this, my final answer will be with the raw data in it. So my data sets are changing drastically here, and you can see them all, how it works beautifully. Again, if you want to keep the data set intact, again, I'm going to let me add these dimensions one more time for you. I would like to see them how it is working out better on the list. I can do one more dimension here. I'm going to go back to the view, and then I'm going to go for a split view. Again, the split view picks up the data automatically, so let me just pick up the data in this way. I'm going to select this and then split the data into two, or I'll just split the data into half here. So now I can see the data set in two different dimensions, and then the moment I filter this out, my filtration is coming out differently. Again, I thought that I can do something better. I'm not able to do that. Now when I'll remove the filter part of it, I'll create a new window here. So that's going to show the data set that I had here, and then I'm going to clear this. This is the raw data that I have, and then you can see that the filtration happens in both the dimension. Again, my filtration happens in everywhere, so the duplication is not really working out for me. So I try to duplicate and show the differentiations so that I can see them all in one data part, but as the data are extracting and moving along, I'm not able to see them all beautifully here. So this is how we can work around with it. So now I would like to make this data into a duplicate version of it. So this is again table and slicer I've used, and this time around I've added one more dimension to it because I've added a lot of information, and then I showed you how this data works beautifully when I work with the filtration option here. I'm going to just take this data again. I'm going to give a right click here and then move or copy it to a brand new list, and I'm going to call this as not just table and slices here. With name manager. So let's clear this out and see what's happening here. So I'm going to just clear them off. Again, name manager will allow you to build a formula easily. So let me just add one data above. I'm going to add a few lines above, and I would like to set a list here. I'm going to introduce you to another formula today. This time around, again, I want to do this not in a table. I'm going to do this outside the table. So for this, I need a name manager. So name manager will make my life a little more easier. Let's see what we're going to do with a name manager here. Again, when I go for a name manager, again, name manager is typically like our cell references here. So name manager have three classification in it. So I'm going to use one of them now. So let me just make it a little bigger so that I can showcase all these dimensions what I'm typing here. So the first name manager I'm going to use is called column based name manager. This is going to make my life a little more better. So again, adding the name of the formulas or other dimensions will be far easier for you when I use a name manager. That's the only reason I'm using name manager, or else I'll be happy with the table feature itself. Then I can go for a range based name manager, and then finally I'm giving a cell based name manager. You can put them all in any dimension that you want. I'm just adding them at the moment on a column front. The range can be multiple columns and rows or a cross tab data type. The cell based will be for a singular cell you are trying to answer them or give a name to it. So naming a cell will really make our life more easier for us. So let's see how we're going to use all these dimension a little better. So to make our life a little better, so I'm going to use the data. I've used the keyboard shortcut to bring the data into merge and center, and I'd like to do that for this data also. Again, a selection is the first criteria. I gave Alt H M and then C. That's going to say merge and center here, so I'm going to make it bold and underline here. That way it says the 3 classification for us. Let's see how we're going to use the name manager here. So I'm going to come back to my data set here, and then again for a name manager I have to choose the data completely. So I'm going to select the whole data, and I don't want the total here, so I'm going to leave the total at the bottom, and then I'm going to come back to my formula bar, and then I'll click in the subgroup called define name. I'm going to click create from selection. When I do that, it automatically pops up a window to me and then asks me a question: would you like to create name for selection? And it says only the top row. It's now what it is doing right now is it's naming the column as per the metadata or as per the heading here. The first column or A column will be called as invoice number, next column will be date, and the last column will be sales, and so on and so forth. So that's how the data is going to work for you. And when I create a name manager, I'm creating a column based name manager. I will keep the top row alone as a selection. If it gives you the left column, bottom row, right column, and so on and so forth, please uncheck them all. The moment I give an OK there, that's going to give you the name manager. I want to see whether the name manager is enabled here. To do that, I'm going to go back to my name manager button and click that. You can use also Control F3 to see this. Again, I have a lot of data sets here. I have table, sales table, and it created sales table 3 for me, and then created a customers. Again, I have a lot of slicer coming up because I duplicated this data, so it's giving you the data for a specific worksheet and specific workbooks and so on and so forth. You can see that it goes by the workbooks and worksheets and so on and so forth. That's okay. I'm going to close this bracket here. Now I would like to create a subtotal function outside the table here. So let's see how to do that. Again, for this I'm going to use a formula called subtotal. Again, let me just because I want to showcase the subtotal functions excellence here, I'm going to go back to the subtotal function. The moment I do it, it gives you a drop down. Normally in a single formula you can add 11 different formulas in subtotal, which is average, count, counter, max, min, product, standard deviation, sample, standard deviation, population, sum, variance sample, variance population. Let me take a screenshot of it. I'll put it here. Again, we have seen one more dimension also. If you scroll down this below, you will see 101, 102. It's giving you the same point. Again, inside a table feature, when I add it, I will add it with 100 series for the same function. If I'm doing it outside the table, the system can be used with the single digit numbers or double digit numbers that we can use it here. So I'm going to just use my snippet tool to screenshot this. I'm going to pick up only the first 11 data sets here because I'm going to use the other dimension a little differently. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it here. So this is the first subtotal function that we have here, which gives you anything and everything on the number front. Again, I think that I made a error. Okay, let me just redo this process one more time because my first formula is getting disappeared here. So I will take my snippet tool. I think the snippet tool is still active. Okay. So I'm going to keep this above because this referential point hides my average when I create a snippet tool here. So now my snippet tool is on. I'm going to select this. I'm going to come. Okay, right. We got. So yeah. Okay, let me reintroduce this snippet tool again. Yes, yeah. Now I can see them all. Perfect. I'm gonna copy this. With this, I don't want to save this anymore. This is the first function that I have here. Again, I'm going to redo this snippet tool one more time. Before I do that, I'll take the second option of the subtotal function because I want to showcase the table feature also here. I'm scrolling this a little down. Yes, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to showcase all my files. Yes. Now I'm going to come back to my snipper tool. And then I'm going to give a new. Come on here. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to take a screenshot here because this is not really doing me a favor for me. Okay, equals subtotal. Oh my god, come on, it's taking a hell lot of time for me to do that. Okay, forget about it. So because I don't want to waste time on this, because when I scroll down, it is not really doing me favors for me. And again, we know the numbers that we are about to use. So now I have this totals here. So now I want to create the functionality which is going to filter out the data when I do it. So I'm going to pick up most used formulas in Excel, the basic formulas that we saw when we worked on math and trigonometry. I'm going to use that inside a subtotal function right now. I'm going to take sum, that is 9. I'm going to take average 1, count 2, max 4, and min 5. So I'm going to put them in an order. So I'm going to call this as 1, 2, 4, 5, and a 9. I already name managed this range, so I'm going to come back here. I'm going to just use subtotal functionality. I'm not going to select the drop down here. I'm going to select the number above, and I'll leave that as it is. I'll give a comma. Now I know the name manager. I'm going to bring the sales column for my calculation here. I'm going to type sales. The moment I type it, you can see the sales coming up here. I'll give a tab, close the bracket, and give an enter. Now I'm going to copy this and then paste it around to all my formulas. That's going to give you the other dimensions. So this is my average. So I can convert that into a rupee symbol. And then I'm going to bring that. This is my maximum value. Again, I'm going to format painter, double click this once, and then I'm going to just drag it all along. And then I'll make this a little wider. So now I know the summation of it. Now I know the lowest value, highest value. I'll name them all right now. So now I'm going to call this is an average. This is count. This is max. This is min. And this is my summation of it. So now the plus point of having this is when I filter it out, I'm not going to get an answer for my data set simply here. I'm going to get answer in multi-dimension. Earlier we got an answer a little differently, so now I'm going to pick up the same Chennai. The moment I do it, I know the Chennai average sales is what, count of sales is what, maximum sales, minimum sales, and the sum of sales. The moment I click the list, again my average is changing, so I'm going to just make it a little bigger because the average value is raising up, the count is changing. Now I'm going to use Puvika, and that's going to give you the highest. Again, the average, max, and min is retaining all because my sale values are not changing for every sales. All my sales are constant here. I just showed you only one subtotal function below inside the table, and again you can see that the formula that I'm using here. So I'll use a formula text to showcase the formula here. Again, the formula text showcase the formula as this. Again, I don't want this. Okay, let me just put them here because this is not a formula. This is a ribbon function that comes into play. So it gives you 109, and then again I got the same value of sales here. Let me just put the formulas for us in use. So I'm going to just call this as equals formula text. For average, again equals formula text. For the count, equals formula text. For the max, and then let me just put them all here. Again, I'm going to copy paste this. I'll add the formula itself, because when I copy pasted, the data set goes on the right hand side, not as I wished it. So these are the formulas that I've used inside our list here. So now I showed you how to use the subtotal function inside a table. Again, I've used the table featured option to get this dimension, so it's not a formula, it's a ribbon function for me. I've created the same logic using a formula too. So this is how we will work with table and slices here. I wish to finish a lot more today, but again our timings are gonna come to an end. I did that using a name manager here. So the name manager really allowed us to make our data set, because I just created one formula, I copy pasted that formula for the other cells, and the number picked up automatically because I kept the cell references intact. And then it says C2, D2, E2, F2 and G2, and then the number changes the formula output accordingly. So I got my average, count, max, min and sum automatically in these dimensions here. So this is the formula that I did, and this is how we can work with our data sets here. When we come back tomorrow, we will talk about more on the next topic. Again, the next topic is going to be the beauty of Excel, that's called pivot table, pivot chart and slices. Again, tomorrow we will have a good 1 hour, so we will touch the pivot table anatomies first of all, and then we'll create these 3 dimensions. If time permits, we will definitely use an interactive dashboard using a pivot table chart and slicer. I'll show how I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the same data what I used a while ago. So this is the data that I'm going to use for our pivot table and slices. I'll show you how this is going to work for you. So again, this is without a name manager, and this is with the name manager here. That way it makes our life a little more better. I will showcase the name manager's use case a little more better when we use this data a little more extensively. So with this, I'll end the session today, and thank you so much guys for taking up this program. And again, I request you all to share this with all your fellow people who is living around you, your neighbors who are in your same age group, so that they will also learn this, and this is an opportunity for them to learn Excel literally for no cost. You are only going to spend your time to learn it. You're not going to do anything other than that. So please do share this with as many people as you can. Make this particular program useful for everyone who sees this. Again, we have a lot more to cover, and we are on the 7th day of our session today. With this, I'll end our session today, and you will be learning more today on this as we go forward. Again, if you want to click the link below, if you don't able to download this file, don't worry about it. I will add week by week files for you. So I'll add the first 5 weeks of Excel files probably by today, so that you will get all the 5 of the files which we learned earlier, and then other files I'll be adding it by this weekend. So this will allow you to make the data a little better. So we'll see how we're going to work on this data sets, and with this I'll sign out, and we will see what next we're going to learn in our Excel user series 6.0 and how to become a super user in Excel. Cheers guys, have a great day.